I shouldn't be here. The frozen river marked the border of the Obsidian kingdom, and crossing it meant invading the territory of the most feared king in all the lands. But behind me, Florian's enforcers were coming, their howls tearing through the night air like promises of torture. And in front of me, black water ran beneath a thin layer of ice that cracked with every gust of wind. Slow death by drowning or slow death at Florian's hands. A fugitive's choices. My bare feet bled on the snow, leaving a red trail that any idiot could follow. The wound on my left arm pulsed with that hot, sticky pain that only silver causes wolves. Florian's ring had left its mark, literally burned into my skin like a seal of ownership. I could smell my own charred flesh mixed with the freezing forest air. "There she is," the shout echoed among the pine trees. They found me. Of course they found me. I was an exhausted Omega running from trained alphas. I never had a real chance. I turned around, because at least I would die looking my killers in the eyes. 5 of them emerged from the trees, swords drawn, cruel smiles on their faces. I knew all of them. They had beaten me before, under Florian's orders, and looked eager to do it again. "Did you really think you could run?" Their leader, Marcus, stepped forward. "The Alpha is furious. When we bring you back, he'll make that little scratch look like a caress." A scratch. He called the 3rd-degree burn on my arm a scratch. I backed away. My heel touched the edge of the ice. The choice was made. I preferred the river. But then the air changed. It became heavy, dense, charged with power that made my wolf, weak and suppressed as she was, whimper from pure instinct. The enforcers stopped, their confident expressions evaporating, and from the deepest shadows of the obsidian forest, he emerged. King Luca. I had only seen him in whispered stories, but there was no doubt. He was massive, draped in black fur cloaks over leather armor that seemed to absorb the light. A thin scar cut across his left eyebrow. And his eyes were molten gold, burning with an intensity that made the surrounding air vibrate. He didn't need to announce who he was. Power emanated from him like heat from a forge, and he was looking directly at me. If you want to know how a terrified fugitive became the queen of the most feared kingdom, how the king everyone called a tyrant knelt in the snow for me, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Come with me. This story is mine, but now it's yours too. Let me take you back to the beginning. To the night I decided that freezing to death was better than living one more day as Florian's property. It all started 3 hours earlier, when I managed to steal the kitchen knife. It wasn't much. A short, dull blade that barely cut bread, but it was the only weapon I could hide under the torn dress Florian forced me to wear. He liked to keep us visible, vulnerable. The Omegas in his pack didn't wear decent clothes. We wore rags that made access easy when he or his men decided to remind us of our place. I was in the pantry, sorting rotten potatoes from the good ones, when I heard it. The conversation in the hallway. 2 guards discussing the evening's entertainment. Florian had decided to make an example. One of the younger Omegas, Mira, had spilled wine on his tunic during dinner. An obvious accident. She was only 15, and her hands trembled constantly from malnutrition. "Is he going to use the ring again?" one of the guards asked, and the other laughed. That laugh. I knew that laugh. It was the sound men make when they are about to watch suffering and feel powerful because of it. Of course. Said he's going to mark both her hands this time, so she never forgets. My stomach clenched. The ring. That cursed pure silver ring Florian wore on his index finger. He had marked me with it 2 weeks ago, pressing the hot metal against my arm while I screamed, just because I had questioned, very politely, whether we could have extra blankets for the winter. The mark was still there. Red, weeping, hurting with every movement. Silver didn't heal in wolves. It slowly poisoned, killing cell by cell, and now he was going to do worse to Mira. A child. Something inside me broke. Not my spirit. My obedience. The part that still believed that if I just behaved, if I was invisible enough, maybe I would survive. That illusion died there, between rotten potatoes and the smell of mold. I wasn't going to let him hurt anyone else, and if that meant I had to die trying to run, so be it. I waited until the changing of the guards. Midnight. The most chaotic moment when the night crew took over and the day crew was too drunk to care. The pantry window was small, But I was even smaller. Malnutrition had its advantages, I discovered bitterly. I squeezed through the opening, the broken glass tearing my skin, but the pain was nothing compared to what awaited me if I stayed. My feet touched the snow outside, and the cold was such a brutal shock I almost screamed. Barefoot. I was barefoot in the midwinter snow, but there was no time for shoes. There was time for nothing but running. The forbidden forest started just 50 meters past the complex wall. I knew every shadow of that space because I had spent years looking out the window, dreaming of freedom. Now, I was running towards it, my feet leaving red footprints, my heart beating so hard I thought it would explode. The alarm sounded when I was halfway to the trees, a screeching bell that tore through the silent night. Someone had noticed. Of course they had. I never had luck. "Fugitive Omega!" Marcus's voice thundered across the courtyard. "Cleared for capture! Alive preferred!" Alive preferred. Because dead I couldn't be made an example of. I reached the trees and didn't look back. Branches scratched my face, tore my already ruined dress, but I kept going. The forest was dense, dark, terrifying. Renegade wolves lived here. Creatures worse than wolves, too. But nothing here could be worse than Florian. I ran until my lungs burned, until my legs trembled, until the cold penetrated so deeply into my bones that I stopped feeling my toes. And then I kept running, because behind me, I heard the howls. They had shifted. They were hunting me in wolf form. I couldn't shift. My wolf was too weak, too suppressed by years of abuse and a diet that barely kept us alive. She whimpered inside me, wanting to help, but unable. So it was just me, human, fragile, doomed. The sound of running water reached my ears. The river. I was reaching the border. And beyond it, Obsidian. King Luca's kingdom. The tyrant. The monster. The wolf who supposedly ripped off heads with his bare hands and drank the blood of his enemies. The stories about him were terrifying. But at least he wasn't Florian. I burst through the last line of trees and stopped, gasping. The frozen river stretched out before me, its partially frozen surface glistening under the full moon. It was beautiful and deadly, and on the other side, the obsidian forest waited, darker, denser, more dangerous. The howls were closer now. I could hear them snapping branches, their heavy paws crushing the snow. Seconds. I had seconds. I looked at the water, at the thin ice, at the almost certain death that waited there. And then I looked back, at the approaching shadows, at the guaranteed life of torture. It wasn't really a choice. I was about to take the first step onto the ice when they appeared. 5 wolves, shifting back to human form, naked and steaming in the cold air. Marcus in front, the others flanking. They surrounded me, cutting off every escape route except the river. "End of the line, bitch." Marcus spat, moving closer. "Are you really stupid enough to invade Obsidian? Luca kills trespassers for sport. Better him than Florian." The words came out before I could stop them. Stupid defiance from someone who had nothing left to lose. Marcus's eyes darkened. "You'll regret that mouth when we get back. The alpha will pull out your tongue before he starts with the ring." He lunged. I backed away. My heel touched the ice, and it cracked under my weight with a sound that was too loud. Everyone froze, staring at the unstable surface. "Don't be stupid," Marcus said, but there was nervousness in his voice now. "If you fall in there, you'll die. And it won't be fast." "I know," I said, and took another step back. The ice groaned, but at least it will be my choice. And that's when the air changed. The temperature dropped so drastically that even the enforcers felt it. Our breath became dense mist. The forest itself seemed to hold its breath. And then the power came. A wave of alpha presence so heavy that my knees buckled involuntarily. The 5 enforcers fell, not to their knees, completely prostrated on the ground, faces pressed into the snow, bodies trembling. Involuntary submission. Their wolves had recognized something so superior that resistance was impossible. I should have fallen too. Any rational Omega would have. But maybe I wasn't rational anymore. Or maybe it was pure shock keeping me standing. Because from the shadows of the obsidian forest, he emerged. King Luca. He was bigger than I imagined. Not just tall, but built like a living mountain. Shoulders so wide they blocked the moonlight. Muscles defined even beneath the layers of fur and leather. But it wasn't his physique that stole the air from my lungs. It was his presence. Absolute authority radiated from him like heat from a black sun. His eyes, those molten gold eyes, swept the scene with an intensity that made my skin tingle. He didn't need to speak. His simple existence was command enough. And he was looking directly at me. Panic exploded in my chest. Trespasser. I was a trespasser in his territory. Stories said he executed invaders on sight. No trial, no questions. Just quick, brutal death. I waited for the attack. I waited for the claws. I waited for the end. But he didn't attack. Instead, King Luca began to walk, not toward the prostrated enforcers, toward me. His steps were slow, deliberate, each footprint crushing the snow with purpose. He walked past the line of enforcers as if they were less than furniture. His eyes never left mine. I should run. I should jump into the river. I should do something other than stand there frozen like a prey mesmerized by a predator. But my body didn't obey. My wolf, weak as she was, had awakened, and she was doing something she had never done before. She was purring. King Luca stopped less than a meter from me. So close I could feel the heat radiating from him, see the thin scar on his eyebrow, count every thread of gold in his impossible eyes. He was terrifying. He was magnificent. And then he did something that completely shattered my reality. He extended his hand, slowly, carefully, as if approaching something precious that might break. His fingers, calloused and enormous, touched my face with a delicacy that made me want to cry. The world exploded. Not literally, but it was as if the universe had rearranged itself. A silent thunder reverberated through every cell of my body. My wolf roared, not in fear, but recognition, of pure, savage joy. Bond. The word echoed in my mind with absolute certainty. Mate bond. Destined. Impossible. Real. King Luca's eyes widened for a fraction of a second. Shock crossed his perfect features before being replaced by something more intense. Possessiveness. Protection. Fury. He turned his face toward the still prostrated enforcers, and when he spoke, his voice made the earth tremble. Mine. One word. A claim. A decree that brooked no argument. Marcus lifted his head just enough to speak, his voice trembling. My king. She is the property of Alpha Florian, a fugitive. We were merely... You dare. Luca's voice cut like a blade. You dare tell me that my mate belongs to another? Deadly silence. And then Marcus made his fatal mistake. With all respect, Majesty, she is just an Omega. A slave. Florian has rights. He didn't finish the sentence. King Luca moved so fast it was a blur. One hand seized Marcus's throat, lifting him off the ground as if he weighed nothing. Luca's face was inches from his eyes now completely black, his wolf in control. She is mine. Every word dripped lethal threat. And if you or any of yours touch a hair on her head again, I will tear out your spine and feed it to the crows. He threw Marcus back into the snow hard enough to break bones. Then he looked at the other four. Go back. Tell your pathetic Alpha that the Omega he tortured is now the Queen of Obsidian. If he has a problem with that, he is welcome to come discuss it personally. No one moved. No one dared. Go. The roar echoed through the forest. They went, staggering, stumbling, running back through the trees as if hell itself pursued them. And perhaps it did, because King Luca was terrible in his wrath. And then he turned to me, and his expression completely changed. The anger melted away, replaced by concern so intense it made me sway. You are hurt. It wasn't a question. He saw the blood on my feet, the wound on my arm, the way I trembled uncontrollably. My voice failed. The adrenaline was wearing off, and with it, the last thread holding me upright. My legs gave out, but before I could hit the ground, strong arms caught me. King Luca lifted me against his chest as if I were made of glass, wrapping his fur cloak around me. The warmth was shocking, wonderful. deadly for someone who was on the brink of hypothermia. You are safe now. His voice was soft. Just for me. I promise. No one will hurt you ever again. I wanted to believe it. God, how I wanted to believe it. But years of abuse had taught me that promises were lies. That kindness was a trick. That safety didn't exist for people like me. But my wolf believed. And when the darkness finally claimed me, I let it. For the first time in years, I passed out not from pain, but from exhaustion. And in the arms of a king, I woke up enveloped in velvet. My brain took several seconds to process that information. Velvet, not moldy straw, not rough wood. Soft, crimson, luxurious velvet against my skin. And warmth. There was true warmth. Not just the damp cold I had known for years. I opened my eyes slowly, blinking against the soft light. The ceiling above me was high, with dark wood beams carved with intricate designs. An iron chandelier hung from the center, its candles casting dancing shadows on the stone walls. Walls that were not gray and stained, but polished black marble that gleamed like a mirror. I tried to sit up, and mild pain protested in muscles I didn't even know I had. But it wasn't the familiar pain of open wounds or broken bones. It was just stiffness. The ordinary discomfort of someone who had run for hours in the snow. Slowly, a gentle voice said to my left. I turned my head so fast my neck cracked. A woman was sitting in a chair near the bed, a book open in her lap. She was older, perhaps 50, with gray hair pulled back in a neat bun and kind brown eyes. You have been unconscious for nearly 18 hours. Your body needed rest. 18 hours. I had slept for 18 hours. In Florian's pack, Omegas were given 4 hours a night, at most, before being woken up to start work. Where am I? My voice came out hoarse, scratchy. In the palace of Obsidian. The woman closed the book and stood up, approaching with careful movements. In the queen's private chambers, to be more specific. My name is Helena. I am King Luca's head healer. Queen. The word hit me like a punch. Memories rushed back in a flood. The escape. The river. King Luca. His golden eyes. The thunder of the bond. His voice declaring, mine. I can't be here. I tried to throw the covers aside, panic swelling in my chest. He will notice. Florian will come. Florian will not dare. Helena interrupted, her voice firm but gentle. She pressed a hand to my shoulder, not with force, but firmly enough to make me pause. King Luca has made it abundantly clear that you are under his protection. And no alpha, no matter how foolish, challenges the king of Obsidian on his own territory. I wanted to believe her, but years of survival had taught me that hope was dangerous. You don't understand. Florian won't just give up. I was his property, and he doesn't like losing his things. Something darkened in Helena's kind eyes. Child, let me be absolutely clear. You are not, and never were, anyone's property. You are a person, a free Omega, and now you are the bonded mate of the most powerful king in these lands. She paused, letting the words sink in. Florian could bring 1,000 warriors, and he still would not be a match for Luca's fury if he tried to reclaim you. Tears burned my eyes. I blinked furiously, trying to hold them back. Crying was weakness. Weakness was punished. Except Helena was looking at me with compassion, not contempt. You are safe here, Helena said softly. And the sooner you accept that, the sooner you can begin to heal. Heal. The word was strange, alien. My arm. I looked down, realizing for the first time that I was wearing a clean white linen shift. My left arm was bandaged from the wrist to the elbow. The silver burn. Helena nodded, her expression turning grim. It was ugly, infected, but I treated it with special unguents and healing magic. You will still have a scar, unfortunately. Silver leaves permanent marks. But the pain will lessen over time. She treated it, with healing magic. Magic was expensive, reserved for high-ranking alphas and betas, never for disposable omegas. Why are you doing this? The question escaped before I could stop it. Why care? I'm nobody. Helena looked at me for a long moment, and there was sadness in her eyes. Because King Luca ordered that you receive the best care this kingdom can offer. Because you are important to him, which means you are important to all of us. She paused. And because no person deserves what was done to you. The bedroom door opened before I could answer, and he walked in. King Luca looked even bigger inside the room than he had in the forest. His wide shoulders nearly touched the doorframe. He had traded the furs and armor for simpler clothes, black leather trousers and a dark linen tunic open at the neck. But this only emphasized his sheer physical force. Muscles rippled beneath the layer of fabric with every movement. His golden eyes met mine immediately, and something in them made me forget to breathe. Intensity, concern, fierce possessiveness. Leave us. His voice was low, but the command was absolute. Helena curtsied. Yes, Majesty. She looked at me one last time, offering an encouraging smile before leaving, closing the door softly behind her. And suddenly, I was alone with him. Panic tried to claw its way up my throat. Alone with an alpha. Alpha meant pain. It meant violence. It meant breathe. His voice cut through the spiral of thoughts. Please, just breathe. I realized I was holding my breath, my body rigid as stone. I forced air into my lungs in a shaky inhalation. Luca didn't approach. Instead, he stood near the door, his hands visible at his sides, his posture deliberately non-threatening. You are scared. It wasn't a question. My voice failed. Yes, I was terrified, but admitting fear to an alpha always resulted in exploitation of that vulnerability. You have every right to be, he said, and the admission shocked me. You escaped a monster who tortured you, woke up in a strange place, and now you are alone with another alpha, who is essentially a stranger. He understood. Somehow, he understood. But I need you to hear something very important. Luca took a single step forward, then stopped when he saw me instinctively flinch back. Pain crossed his face. In this castle, you never kneel, you never bow, you never ask permission to speak, eat, sleep, or simply exist, and you certainly will never be touched without your explicit permission. The words were so alien that it took several seconds to process them. But you are the king. You can... I won't, he interrupted, his voice like steel. You are my mate, my equal. And even if you weren't, I would never force anyone. His golden eyes flashed, especially not someone who has been forced so many times. The tears I had been holding back finally overflowed. They streamed down my face in silent trails, and I hated every one of them. I hated my weakness. I hated that simple kindness could break me when violence never could. Luca made a low sound in his throat. Not a growl, but something closer to a moan of pain. May I approach? He asked. Only to offer a handkerchief. Nothing else. I nodded, unable to speak. He crossed the room with slow, measured steps, as if approaching a wild animal. When he reached the bedside, he pulled a soft cloth handkerchief from his pocket and held it out. He didn't press it into my hands. He just offered it, waiting for me to take it. I took it, wiping my face with trembling fingers. Helena told me about your injuries, Luca said softly. The silver wound on your arm, the cuts on your feet, the old bruises that have barely begun to heal. He paused, and when he spoke again, his voice was tight with barely contained fury. Who did this to you? Florian. The name came out like poison. My former alpha. He didn't like it when Omegas forgot their place. And what was that place according to him? Luca's eyes were darker now, his wolf straining for control. Below everyone, I whispered. Property, tools, things to use and discard. Something broke in Luca's expression. Fury so intense crossed his features that I flinched involuntarily. But it wasn't directed at me. It was for me. Show me. His voice was rough. The silver mark. Show me what he did. My hand automatically went to the bandaged arm. Why? Because I need to see. His eyes met mine, and there was something primal in them. I need to know exactly what I am going to rip off him when I face him. Slowly, with shaking fingers, I began to unroll the bandages. Helena had done a meticulous job. Layers upon layers of clean gauze soaked in something that smelled of medicinal herbs. When the last layer fell away, revealing the burn, I heard Luca inhale sharply. The mark was ugly, red and weeping, the circular shape of Florian's ring, permanently burned into my skin. Even parts of the ring's design were visible, a snarling wolf surrounded by thorns. He marked you. Luca's voice was empty now. That dangerous calm before the storm. Like cattle. He said it was so I would remember my place. My voice was small. To never forget that I belonged to him. Luca reached out slowly, telegraphing every move. When his fingers touched the skin around the burn, not the wound itself, but the surrounding area, his touch was so gentle that more tears escaped. "Look at me," he ordered softly. I obeyed, lifting my eyes to meet his. "I am going to tear off the hand that wore that ring." Every word was a promise, and I am going to bring it to you, along with that damned ring, so you can do whatever you want with them. Burn them, bury them, throw them in the river, anything, because you never belonged to Florian. And this mark, he looked at the burn with pure hatred, this mark will become a symbol not of ownership, but of survival, of strength, of the fact that you escaped and found your way to me. I wanted to believe it. God, how I wanted to. He won't stop, I warned. Florian doesn't give up his property easily. He will come after me. And when he comes, Luca interrupted, he will find that invading Obsidian was the last mistake of his pathetic life. His eyes glowed gold. I have been waiting for an excuse to remove Florian from existence for years. He is a disgrace to all alphas. A cowardly sadist who tortures the weak because he can't face the strong. You know him? Surprise colored my voice. I know of him, Luca said with disgust. The entire Grand Council knows. There have been complaints against him for years, but without willing victims to testify, without concrete evidence, our hands are tied by law. His smile was grim. But now he has touched what is mine, hurt my mate, and that gives me every right to demand retribution. Mate. The word still sounded unreal. How can you be sure? I asked. Of the bond. How do you know it's not a mistake? Luca looked at me for a long moment. Did you feel it? When I touched your face in the forest. That silent thunder that shook everything inside you? I nodded slowly. That was the bond forming. Soul recognition. It is unmistakable. Impossible to fake. He paused. Your wolf recognized mine, and mine recognized yours. We were born to be together. But I'm just an Omega. The words came out automatically, years of conditioning speaking. And you are a king. It doesn't make sense. Rank does not matter for mate bonds, Luca said firmly. Destiny does not care about titles or status. It cares about souls that fit together. He hesitated, then added more softly, and you are not just anything. You are Jessie, my mate, future queen of Obsidian, and the bravest woman I have ever known. Brave. No one had ever called me brave, weak, pathetic, useless. Those were the adjectives used for me. But brave? I ran away, I said. That's not courage, it's cowardice. You escaped, Luca corrected. Against all odds, with serious wounds, without shoes in the middle of winter, you chose freedom over safety. That is the definition of courage. A sound at the door made us look. Helena had returned, knocking lightly. Pardon me, Majesty, but dinner is ready, and I thought Miss Jessie should eat something substantial. Luca immediately stood up. Of course. Jessie, are you hungry? The question caught me off guard. When was the last time someone asked if I was hungry? Food was thrown to Omegas when convenient, and we ate quickly before it was taken away. But now that he mentioned it, my stomach rumbled loud enough to be heard. Shame burned my face. Luca smiled, the first true smile I had seen from him, and it transformed his severe features into something almost boyish. I'll take that as a yes. Helena, can you bring a tray? Something gentle. She is not used to proper meals. Already prepared, Majesty. Helena entered carrying a silver tray that she placed on my lap. Creamy vegetable soup, fresh bread with butter, soft cheese, and fresh fruit. The smell was heavenly. Eat slowly, Helena advised. Your stomach needs to adjust. I looked at the food, then at Luca, waiting for permission. Old habits. It is yours, he said gently. All yours. And there will be more whenever you want. You will never go hungry under my roof again." So I ate, and I cried. Because for the first time in years, I wasn't just surviving. I was beginning to live. 3 days passed in a kind of hazy dream. Days where I woke up in velvet, ate until I was satisfied, and was treated with a kindness that my brain still struggled to process as real. Helena came twice a day to change my bandages and check my recovery. Servants, not slaves but paid servants, politely asked if I needed anything. And Luca visited every evening. He never stayed long, never got too close without permission. But he would come, sit in the chair near the fireplace, and talk about simple things, like the weather, the palace gardens, funny stories from his childhood, as if normal conversations could teach me that not every interaction had to end in pain. And slowly, cautiously, something inside me began to relax. On the 4th day, Helena declared I was strong enough to explore the palace. Being confined to one room, no matter how luxurious, is not healthy, she said, helping me into a simple blue wool dress that was fancier than anything I had ever owned. And the king will be in a council meeting all afternoon. Perfect time for you to get acquainted with your new home. My new home. The words still felt impossible, but I was tired of being cooped up. So I accepted, and Helena guided me through wide corridors with vaulted ceilings and huge windows that let in golden cascades of sunlight. Thick carpets muffled our footsteps. Tapestries depicting ancient battles and majestic landscapes covered the stone walls. Fireplaces roared at regular intervals, keeping everything warm and cozy. "The library is down this hall." Helena pointed to a set of carved double wooden doors. "The king thought you might like it. He noticed you looking at the books in your room with interest." He noticed. Luca had noticed. The observation warmed me in a strange way. "Can I?" I started to ask, then corrected myself. I didn't need permission. Not here. I would like to see it. Helena smiled. "Of course. I will leave you to explore in peace. But if you need anything at all, just ask a servant. Everyone has been instructed to treat you with the utmost respect." After she left, I pushed the doors open and entered the library. It was massive. Shelves soared up to the high ceiling, accessible by rolling ladders. Thousands, no, tens of thousands, of books in leather bindings, their gilded titles shining in the light pouring in from arched windows. There were reading tables scattered throughout the space, padded chairs near smaller fireplaces, even a section with floor cushions for more casual reading. I had secretly learned to read as a child, before Florian claimed me. It was one of the few things he hadn't managed to completely take away from me. And now, there were more books here than I could read in a lifetime. My hands trembled as I reached for the first shelf, fingers tracing the titles. History, philosophy, poetry, military treatises, fiction. It was all here. "Impressive, isn't it?" a feminine voice said behind me. I spun around so fast I nearly stumbled. A woman was standing near the entrance, and my first impression was beauty. She was perhaps 25, with black hair cascading in perfect waves over shoulders covered by an emerald green silk dress. Her eyes were the same color, sharp and calculating, and something about the way she looked at me made my skin crawl. "You must be the Omega," she said, and the word sounded like an insult despite the neutral tone. My uncle's mate, uncle. So she was family, royalty, and I was, what? An intruder in their world. "Jessie," I said, forcing my voice to be steady. "My name is Jessie. Of course." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. How careless of me. Lady Genevieve, by the way. King Luca's niece and the kingdom's social affairs counselor. She took a few steps into the library, her movements graceful and predatory. "I must say you've caused quite a stir. The great king of Obsidian, notoriously single and aloof, suddenly claiming a mate. And a fugitive, no less. It's fascinating." The way she said fugitive made me feel dirty. Smaller. Exactly the way Florian always did. "I didn't ask to be his mate," I said defensively. "No, I suppose not." Genevieve picked up a random book, flipping through its pages without actually reading them. Bonds are so inconvenient like that. They don't care about suitability. They don't consider how much a choice can complicate political alliances. I didn't understand what she was talking about, but the hostility in her words was crystal clear. My uncle is a great king, Genevieve continued, her eyes finally meeting mine. The most powerful in these lands. He deserves a queen who is his equal, someone trained in diplomacy, fluent in multiple languages, versed in court customs. Not a... She paused, letting her eyes sweep over my body with obvious contempt. Street bitch who doesn't even know how to properly hold a fork. The words hit me like physical blows, each one finding the insecurities I already carried. Because she was right. I didn't know anything about being a queen. I didn't know about diplomacy or politics or how to behave in a court. I barely knew how to exist without fear. He will tire of you, Genevieve said, her voice low now, almost gentle. And somehow, that made it crueler. Once you are healed, once the novelty of the bond wears off, he will see what you truly are. And then, do you think he will keep you here? An omega with no skills, no education, no value beyond being a mistake of fate? Tears burned my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. I wasn't going to give her that satisfaction. Luca wants me here. My voice came out weaker than I intended. Luca pities you, Genevieve corrected. There is a difference. He is a good man, my uncle. Too compassionate sometimes. He won't throw you back to your former alpha, but he also won't let you ruin his reputation by staying. She moved closer, and I instinctively backed up until my back hit the bookshelf. Do yourself and the kingdom a favor. Leave voluntarily. Go to a neutral pack. Luca will guarantee your protection, give you resources. You can start over away from here without embarrassing both of you. I stammered, hating my weakness. I can't just... Of course you can. Genevieve smiled. And you will, if you are smart. Because the alternative? Her eyes flashed. Eventually, Luca will need a real queen. And when that day comes, you will wish you had left with dignity instead of being removed like the trash that you are. She turned gracefully and walked toward the exit, then stopped at the doorframe. Oh, and Jesse? Don't bother telling my uncle about our conversation. He will think you are being paranoid, traumatized, seeing threats where there are none. Her smile was pure ice. After all, I am family. And you? You are nobody. After she left, I slid down the bookshelf to the floor, my legs no longer supporting me. My chest tightened, breath coming in short gasps. She was right. She had to be. Because what else explained a king wanting someone like me? Pity. He felt pity. I spent the rest of the day hiding in the library, trying to believe Genevieve was wrong, trying to convince myself that Luca truly wanted me. But her words had found every crack in my already fragile confidence and widened them into chasms. When night fell, I returned to my room alone, dismissing the escort Helena had sent. I needed to think. I needed to figure out what to do. I was sitting by the window looking out at the moonlit garden below, when I heard it. Voices. From the hallway. Male voices in heated discussion. It is a weakness, Majesty. Forgive my bluntness, but that is what everyone is saying. Be careful who you call a weakness, General Aldrich. Luca's voice was low. Dangerous. You are speaking of my mate. And that is precisely why, sire. Another voice joined in. The other kingdoms are questioning your judgment. How can such a formidable king claim a fugitive Omega? What message does that send? It sends the message, Luca replied with steel in his voice, that I do not bow to political expectations, that I choose my mate by the bond, not by strategic advantage. But what about when Alpha Florian comes demanding retribution? What about when other alphas decide our borders are weak because our king is distracted by a broken girl? Broken girl. That's what they thought. That's what everyone thought. Leave, Luca's voice thundered. Now, before I forget you are my counselors and only remember that you insulted what is mine. Sounds of hurried footsteps, the door slamming, and then silence. I backed away from the window, heart hammering. They were right. Everyone was right. I was a weakness, a distraction, an embarrassment to a king who deserved so much better. Maybe Genevieve was right. Maybe I should leave before I caused more damage. A soft knock on my door made me jump. Jesse! Luca's voice. May I come in? I wiped my face quickly, trying to hide evidence of tears. Yes. He entered, and immediately his features shifted from neutral to concerned. You have been crying. It wasn't a question. What happened? Nothing. The lie sounded weak even to my own ears. Luca crossed the room in 3 long strides. Jesse, look at me. When I reluctantly obeyed, he continued. I heard what my general said. Did you hear it too? There was no point in denying it. I nodded. Something broke in his expression. And you believe them? You think you are a weakness? My voice failed. I don't know what I am, but I know what I am not. I am not a queen. I am not suitable for you. And maybe it would be better if I left before I... No. The word came out as a roar. Luca gripped my shoulders, not tightly but urgently, forcing me to meet his eyes. Don't you dare finish that sentence. You are not leaving. You are not forsaking me. Not now, not ever. But they said, they are idiots. He interrupted. Idiots who will be replaced if they don't learn to show respect for their queen. Do you understand? You are my queen. Not by tolerance, not by pity, by destiny, by choice, by love that is still growing, but is already more real than any political alliance could be. Love. The word paralyzed me. You don't understand yet, Luca said, his voice softening. You have spent so long being told you are worthless that you believe it, but I will spend every day of the rest of my life proving you wrong, until you see what I see. Strength, courage, beauty that has nothing to do with looks and everything to do with the soul that refused to break, even when the world tried. Tears streamed freely now. What if they are right? What if I'm not good enough? Then we will become good enough together, he said simply. But Jesse, you need to trust me. You need to believe that when I say you belong to me just as much as I belong to you, I am not lying. I wanted to believe him. Desperately. Stay. He pleaded, and there was a vulnerability in the request that broke me. Please, just stay. I will try, I whispered. It wasn't a complete promise, but from the look of relief in his eyes, it was enough. For now. What neither of us knew was that just outside the door, Lady Genevieve was listening and smiling, because while Luca was distracted saving a broken Omega, she was busy making deals with monsters. A communication mirror glowed in her private chamber that night, and on the other side, Alpha Florian's cruel face appeared. Well, he demanded, do you have access? I do, Genevieve confirmed. The protection runes on the back gate. I can deactivate them for 3 minutes. Is that enough time? More than enough. Florian grinned, and it was pure malice. I will reclaim what is mine, and your precious uncle will learn that stealing property has consequences. Just remember our agreement, Genevieve said coldly. You take the girl and disappear. I don't want a war. I just want her away from my uncle and away from the throne that should rightfully be mine. No witnesses. No evidence. It will be as if she was never here, Florian promised. And while they conspired, I fell asleep in Luca's arms for the first time, allowing him to hold me through the night, unaware that this might be our last night of peace. I woke up alone. The bed beside me was still warm from Luca's heat, but he was gone. A note was folded on his pillow, written in elegant script. My heart, I was called to the northern border. Reports of suspicious activity that I need to investigate personally. I left elite guards at your door and Helena has orders to stay close. I will return before nightfall. Do not doubt, for a second, that you are exactly where you belong. L. I traced the letters with my fingers, his scent of cedar and storm still clinging to the paper. Part of me, the part still terrified and traumatized, whispered that this was a trap, that he was leaving because he was tired of me. But the larger part, the part that was slowly learning to trust, believed him. Northern border, suspicious activity. Something about it bothered me, but I couldn't pinpoint what. I dressed quickly, choosing one of the simple dresses Helena had provided, this one of gray wool with delicate embroidery on the hem. When I opened the door, 2 guards were positioned there, both bowing respectfully. My queen, the older one said. He was perhaps 40, with battle scars crisscrossing his face but kind eyes. "I am Captain Rolf. King Luca instructed us to protect you with our lives." "That won't be necessary," I said quickly, uncomfortable with the idea of someone dying for me. "I am safe here in the palace." Rolf and his partner exchanged a look. "Nonetheless, madam, orders are orders." Helena appeared at the end of the hall, carrying her healer's bag. "Good morning, Jessie. How are you feeling?" "Better," I answered honestly. The days of rest, proper food, and treatment had done wonders. The wounds on my feet were almost healed. The silver burn on my arm still ached, but less intensely. Can I walk in the gardens today? Being inside 4 walls, even beautiful ones, is starting to suffocate me." Helena smiled. "Of course. A little fresh air will do you good. But take a cloak. It's still cold outside." The gardens of the Obsidian Palace were stunning even in winter. Shrubs pruned into geometric shapes, frozen fountains creating natural ice sculptures, stone paths swept clear of snow. I walked slowly, Captain Rolf and his partner keeping a respectful distance but always vigilant. That's when I saw her. Lady Genevieve, sitting on a bench near a fountain, talking to someone. When she saw me, she smiled, that false smile that didn't reach her eyes, and waved me over. Every instinct screamed to go the opposite way, but running would be admitting weakness, so I forced my feet to move toward her. "Jessie, what a lovely coincidence," Genevieve said, her voice pure honey. "I was just speaking about you with Counselor Marcus." The man beside her was thin, middle-aged, with calculating eyes that assessed me as if I were a math problem. "My queen." He bowed, but there was something mocking in the formality. "Counselor Marcus was telling me about the coronation traditions," Genevieve continued, as if we were having a friendly conversation. "Apparently, an Obsidian queen must pass 3 tests before being officially accepted by the court." "Tests." My stomach plummeted. "What kind of tests?" "Oh, nothing too difficult," Marcus said with a thin smile. "Demonstration of diplomacy, knowledge of history and law, and, of course, ability to defend oneself in combat. Combat, diplomacy, history, things I knew nothing about. Of course," Genevieve added casually, "the king can waive the tests if he wishes, but then there would be whispers about favoritism, about the queen not truly being deserving." She paused. "It would be a shame to begin your reign under such a cloud of doubt. A trap. It was a trap. I could feel it. But what could I do? Refusing would sound like cowardice. Accepting would be walking straight into failure." "When are these tests?" I heard my own voice ask. "Usually within a month of the claim," Marcus replied. "But given the unusual circumstances of your arrival, perhaps we should schedule them sooner, to quickly silence the critics." 3 days, Genevieve suggested, her eyes glittering with what looked like anticipated victory. "That would give you time to prepare, but not so much that people start wondering if you are avoiding it. 3 days, to learn things that took years of study. Impossible." I began, but was interrupted by a distant sound. Bells, clanging and urgent. Captain Rolf was by my side instantly, his hand on his sword hilt. "Invasion signal," he said, his face pale. "Someone breached the perimeter." Invasion. The world tilted. Florian. It had to be Florian. "Back to the palace," Rolf ordered. "Now!" We started running, but then we heard it. Screams. Coming from the direction of the palace. Sounds of metal against metal. Combat. "The back gate!" Rolf's partner gasped as we ran. "How did they get past the protection runes?" Genevieve stumbled, and I instinctively caught her. Our eyes met for a fraction of a second, and I saw it. Guilt. Fear. Knowledge. She knew. Somehow she knew this was going to happen. "You." The word came out as an accusation. "You did this." "I don't know what you're talking about," Genevieve said, but her voice trembled. There was no time to confront her. The screams were closer now. We reached the inner courtyard and chaos greeted us. Florian's soldiers, I recognized the red and black uniforms immediately, were everywhere. At least 20 of them, fighting the Obsidian guards. There were bodies on the ground, blood staining the white snow, and walking calmly through the carnage, as if on a casual stroll, was him, Florian. He hadn't changed. He still had that cruel face, those small, sadistic eyes, that smile that promised pain. The silver ring gleamed obscenely on his index finger, catching the winter sunlight. Our eyes met across the courtyard, and his smile widened. "There you are, my little fugitive." His voice carried through the combat. "I missed you, especially your ability to scream so beautifully." Captain Rolf pushed me back, placing himself between me and Florian. "Back down, Alpha Florian. You are in direct violation of territorial law. This is an act of war." "War?" Florian laughed. "I only came to reclaim my stolen property. Where is your precious king now?" "Oh, that's right. On the northern border, chasing ghosts." His grin was pure malice. How convenient. A setup. The suspicious activity on the northern border was a setup to get Luca out of here. "You cannot have her," Rolf said, his sword drawn. "She is King Luca's bonded mate. To touch her means your death. He'll have to find me first." Florian gestured, and his soldiers moved. They were more numerous, better coordinated. The Obsidian guards were fighting bravely, but they were being overwhelmed. I needed to do something. I needed to... What? I didn't know how to fight. I had no weapons. I had no power. But I had a voice. "Stop," I shouted, and surprisingly some warriors hesitated. "Florian, you want me? Then take me. But let these men live. They have nothing to do with this." "No," Rolf roared. "My queen, you cannot—" "Jesse, don't be stupid." Helena had appeared, her face smeared with blood that I hoped wasn't hers. Luca is not here," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "And people are dying because of me. I won't allow it." Florian was walking toward me now, his men parting the way. How noble, how stupid. But I appreciate the gesture. He came too close, and his smell, sweat, violence, and something rotten, made my stomach turn. "Did you really think you could escape me? That this idiotic king could protect you? He will destroy you when he finds out," I said, forcing my voice not to tremble. "Perhaps," Florian conceded. "But until then, you and I will have quality time together. I have so many lessons I need to reteach you. Starting with this one." He raised his hand, the silver ring glinting menacingly. I closed my eyes, bracing for the pain, but it didn't come. Instead, I heard a sound. A roar so deep, so primal that it made the earth shake. Not a human roar, not even an ordinary wolf howl. It was the roar of something ancient, deadly, legendary. My eyes snapped open just in time to see the main gate explode. Not open, explode. Wood and metal flying in all directions as if they were made of paper. And through the cloud of dust and debris, he came. The Obsidian wolf. I had heard stories. Everyone had. About the wolf King Luca became when truly enraged. A creature the size of a bear, made of shadows and muscle, with eyes that burned like hellfire embers. The stories did not do justice to the reality. He was enormous, black as the darkest night, his fur seemingly absorbing light. Muscles rippled beneath his skin with every movement, and his eyes, those golden eyes I knew so well, now blazed with absolute fury. He had felt it. Through the bond, miles away, he had felt my terror, and he came. The Obsidian wolf did not hesitate. He did not negotiate. He simply attacked. What happened next was carnage. There was no other word. Florian's soldiers tried to fight, but they were like children against a force of nature. He tore them, threw them, destroyed them. Not to kill, though some would surely die, but to incapacitate, to remove threats between him and me. And in less than a minute, all 20 soldiers were on the ground, whimpering, bleeding, or unconscious. Florian was frozen, his face finally showing true fear. "King Luca, The wolf shifted. The change was fluid, bones and muscles rearranging until Luca stood there in human form. Naked, covered in enemy blood, his eyes still burning with fury that made the surrounding air vibrate. "You touched what is mine." Every word dripped lethal threat. "You invaded my home, hurt my people, terrorized my mate." He began walking toward Florian, and it was like watching death approach in physical form. I have rights," Florian stammered. "She was my property before she was your mate." "Property," Luca repeated, and there was something broken in how he said that word. "You called a person property, an omega, a woman, as if she were less than human. The ancient laws are dead," Luca interrupted. "Just like your claim over her, just like your right to breathe my air." He stopped directly in front of Florian. "But I made a promise, and I always keep my promises." And then, with brutal speed, Luca seized Florian's arm, the arm with the ring. "You marked her with silver," Luca said, his voice calm now. That terrifying calm before the storm. "Burned her skin, left a scar she will carry forever." He twisted, and Florian screamed. "So now, I mark you." The sound of bone snapping echoed through the silent courtyard. Florian fell to his knees, clutching his broken arm, howling in pain. And Luca, with surgical precision, ripped the ring from Florian's finger. Along with the finger, Florian passed out. A mercy, probably. Luca turned, the bloody ring in his hand, and walked to me. When he reached me, the fury in his eyes softened, replaced by concern. "Are you hurt?" His voice was raspy. "No," I whispered. "You got here in time." He pulled me against his chest. Blood, nudity and all. Caring about nothing but feeling me alive and safe in his arms. I felt it. He said against my hair, "Your fear? Through the bond." I felt it and I ran. Nothing could have stopped me from reaching you. "The northern border," I began. "A setup," he confirmed. I realized halfway there. I turned and ran faster than I have ever run. He pulled back just enough to look into my eyes. "And never, ever again will I leave you unprotected." He held out the ring. That cursed silver ring that had marked me. "This is yours now, to do with what you will. Burn it, bury it, throw it into the deepest sea. You decide." I looked at the bloody ring, at the symbol of so much suffering. And then I looked at the unconscious Florian, finally powerless. "Keep it," I said, "as evidence for the Grand Council, so that everyone knows exactly what kind of monster he is." Pride shone in Luca's eyes. "As you command, my queen." It was only then that I realized. Genevieve had disappeared. In the confusion of the battle, she escaped. But something told me this was not over. Not by a long shot. The great hall of the Obsidian Palace had never looked so intimidating. 3 days had passed since the invasion, and now the tribunal was gathered. Not just Luca's court, but representatives from all neighboring packs. The Grand Council had sent their elders, and in the center of the hall, chained in silver and kneeling on the marble floor, was Lady Genevieve. I sat beside Luca on a throne that still felt too large for me. I was wearing a dress Helena had chosen, black velvet embroidered with silver thread, formal and regal. My hair had been braided in a complex style that took a servant an hour to complete. I looked like a queen, but inside, I still felt like the girl running barefoot in the snow. "Let the tribunal begin," Luca announced, his voice echoing through the hall. He was in full royal regalia, obsidian crown, fur cloak over ceremonial armor. He was every inch the powerful king the stories described. Florian was chained on the other side of the hall, his broken arm bandaged but clearly still causing him pain. His eyes met mine, and there was so much hatred there that I flinched instinctively. Luca's hand found mine immediately, squeezing with silent reassurance. Alpha Florian. One of the elders of the Grand Council rose. He was old, perhaps 80, with white hair and eyes that had seen centuries of politics. "You are accused of multiple violations: unprovoked territorial invasion, attempted kidnapping of a bonded mate, use of forbidden magic to bypass defenses, and," he paused, his eyes narrowing, "systematic abuse of omegas under your protection. How do you plead?" "Not guilty," Florian spat. "I was only retrieving stolen property. That omega," he pointed at me with his good arm, "belonged to my pack. King Luca had no right to." "She is my bonded mate," Luca interrupted, his voice cutting like a blade. "The bond voids any previous claim. That is fundamental law." "A convenient bond," Florian sneered. Discovered at the exact moment she trespassed on your territory? Forgive my skepticism. Murmurs swept through the court. Doubt. Questioning. My stomach churned. The bond is real, I heard myself say, my voice weaker than I intended. I felt it. He felt it. It is not something that can be faked. The words of a desperate fugitive, Florian said dismissively. Obviously, she would say anything to avoid returning to justice. Justice? Anger exploded in my chest, burning through the fear. You call it justice to burn me with silver for asking for blankets? You call it justice to beat Omegas for accidentally spilling wine? You call it justice to keep people in cages and treat them like animals? Discipline, Florian corrected. Omegas need a firm hand. It is our nature to dominate and theirs to obey. The hall erupted in voices, some agreeing, others protesting. And I realized with horror that there were people there who actually believed that, who saw Omegas as less than human. Silence. Luca roared, and everyone instantly obeyed. He stood up, his presence filling the space. Bring the evidence. Captain Rolfe entered carrying a wooden box. From inside, he pulled out the silver ring. That cursed ring, now clean of blood but still stained with malice. This ring, Luca said, holding it up for everyone to see, was used by Florian to burn Omegas as punishment. My mate carries the mark permanently on her arm. He paused. Show them, Jesse. My heart stopped. Showing the scar meant revealing my weakness, my shame, in front of all these powerful strangers. But Luca looked at me, and there was support in his eyes. Trust. Love. Slowly, with trembling fingers, I began to unwrap the bandages on my arm. Helena had changed them this morning, so the wound was clean. But it was still hideous. Red, weeping, the circular shape of the ring burned forever into my skin. Gasps echoed through the hall. Even some of those who had seemed sympathetic to Florian looked shocked. This, Luca said, his voice vibrating with contained fury, is what he calls discipline, torture, mutilation. A permanent mark she will carry as a reminder of his abuse for the rest of her life. She deserved it, Florian said, but his voice was less confident now. She questioned my orders, disrespected my authority. She asked for blankets, Luca corrected. In the middle of winter, for Omegas who were freezing, and you burned her for having compassion. I have the right to govern my pack as I see fit, not when it violates the basic laws of the Grand Council, the elder intervened. Abuse of pack members, especially those unable to defend themselves, is expressly forbidden. If these accusations are true, they are, a voice said from the door. Everyone turned. A group of women entered. Omegas from Florian's former pack. I recognized some. Mira, the young girl I had tried to protect, was at the front. We all have marks. We were all burned, beaten, caged, and Jessie, tears streamed down Mira's face. Jessie protected us. She took our punishments. She fed us her own rations when we were too sick to work. I hadn't known they were here. Luca had brought them secretly, offering asylum, guaranteeing protection. One by one they showed their scars, their burns, their wounds. 13 women, 13 witnesses. Evidence impossible to deny. Florian's face was white now. He realized he had lost. Based on the evidence presented, the elder declared, this council finds Alpha Florian guilty of all charges. He will be stripped of his title, his lands confiscated, and, he looked at Luca, his sentence is at the discretion of the King of Obsidian, whose territory he violated, and whose mate he threatened. All eyes turned to Luca, expecting justice, expecting revenge, expecting blood. But Luca looked at me. The choice is yours, my heart. He hurt you more than anyone. You decide his fate. Absolute silence fell over the hall. An Omega, deciding the fate of an Alpha. It was unprecedented. I looked at Florian, at the man who had tortured me for years, who had made me feel less than human, who had broken so many other women. Part of me wanted revenge, wanted to see him suffer as he made us suffer. But another part, the part Luca was carefully nurturing, remembered that I wasn't like him. Exile, I said finally. to the wildlands. Without title, without protection, without resources. Let him survive on his own strength, with no one to dominate or break. Let him learn what it is like to be completely alone and powerless. "No!" Florian screamed. "You can't. The wildlands are a death sentence. Just as you condemned so many Omegas to a slow death through your abuses," I said, my voice firmer now. "The difference is that you have a chance to survive. They did not." The elder nodded. "So be it. Florian, you have 1 hour to leave this territory. Any attempt to return will result in immediate execution." Guards dragged him out, his screams echoing until they faded away. And then the elder turned to Genevieve, still chained and silent. "As for you, Lady Genevieve, treason against royal blood, conspiracy with an external enemy, sabotage of kingdom defenses. Your crimes are, in many ways, worse than his." Genevieve finally lifted her head. There were tears in her eyes, but not of regret, of anger. "She does not belong here." Her gaze met mine. A street mongrel sitting on the throne that should be mine. My uncle became weak because of her. I did what was necessary. "You betrayed me first," Luca said, and there was pain in his voice now. "Genevieve, I loved you like a daughter. I gave you rank, power, trust, and you betrayed me, betrayed our blood. You betrayed me first," she spat, "choosing her over family, over legacy. The legacy," Luca said calmly, "is to be better than our ancestors. It is to choose compassion over cruelty, love over power." He looked at the elder. "She is right about one thing. My sentence would be biased. I leave her punishment to the council." The elder deliberated with the others in low voices. Finally, he turned. "Lady Genevieve, you will be exiled to the southern lands. Your title is removed, your properties confiscated, your name removed from royal records. You are no longer family of Obsidian." Genevieve didn't scream like Florian. She just looked at Luca with pure hatred. "You will regret this," she whispered as she was led away. "When she fails you, when she proves to be the weakness she always was, you will regret it." The door closed behind her, and finally, it was over. But I still felt everyone's eyes on me, judging, questioning, weighing me and finding me insufficient. "There is one other matter," the elder said. "The question of the Queen's legitimacy." My stomach sank. The tests. Genevieve had mentioned the tests. "Traditionally," the elder continued, "a new Queen of Obsidian must prove her worth through 3 demonstrations. But," he looked at me, and there was something like kindness in his old eyes. "Given the extraordinary circumstances, and considering the courage demonstrated today in facing your abuser and choosing justice over vengeance, this council declares such tests unnecessary." Relief washed over me so intensely that I nearly collapsed. "Jessie of Obsidian," the elder formally declared, "this council recognizes you as the legitimate queen. May your reign be long and just." The court knelt. Everyone, even the elders, in respect, in recognition. And for the first time since I woke up in that velvet room, I truly believed it. I was the queen. Later that evening, after everyone had left and the palace was finally quiet, Luca took me out onto the private balcony of our chambers. The moon was full, casting silver light over the Obsidian mountains that stretched endlessly beyond. "You were magnificent today," he said, pulling me against his chest. "The way you spoke, the way you chose mercy without weakness. You were born for this, my heart." I was terrified, I confessed. "Every second. Courage is not the absence of fear," he said. "It is acting despite it. And you acted. You saved those women, gave them a voice, changed laws that had been wrong for centuries, simply by existing and refusing to be silenced." Tears burned my eyes. "I couldn't have done it without you, without your trust." "You would have," he said with certainty. "Perhaps it would have taken longer. Perhaps the path would have been different. But the strength was always in you, Jessie. I merely helped you see it." We stood there for a long time, wrapped in each other, looking out at the kingdom that was now ours. Ours to protect, ours to improve, ours to love. "You know what's funny?" I said eventually. "When I was running that night, running barefoot through the snow, I thought I was running to my death, that crossing that river would be the end of me. And it was, Luca said softly. The end of the broken girl Florian created. The end of fear and pain. He turned me to face him, his hands framing my face. And the beginning of the queen you were always destined to be. I kissed him then, deeply, completely, pouring all my love, gratitude, and promise into that touch. And in that moment, under the moon and stars, I finally understood. They called me broken. He called me whole. And now, the world would call me queen. 6 months later, I stood on the same balcony, but everything had changed. Or perhaps I had changed. The spring sun bathed Obsidian in golden light, melting the last traces of snow on the distant mountains. The gardens below were bursting with flowers, vibrant purples, deep reds, cheerful yellows. The air smelled of new earth and new beginnings. My hand automatically rested on my belly. Still flat, but I knew. I felt it. New life growing inside me. The healer had only confirmed it this morning, and I hadn't told Luca yet. I wanted the moment to be perfect. My queen. A soft voice called me. Mira, the young Omega I had tried to protect so long ago, now served as my personal assistant, but not out of obligation, out of choice, and out of friendship. The representatives from the neighboring packs have arrived for the meeting. The meeting. My project. 6 months of planning, negotiating, and sheer stubbornness. I'm ready, I said, turning. I was wearing a midnight blue silk dress, simple but elegant. My hair was loose today, falling in waves over my shoulders. And on my arm, the arm that still bore the silver scar, I wore a gold arm cuff, not to hide the mark, but to frame it, to transform it from a symbol of shame into a symbol of survival. The council hall was full. Representatives from 15 different packs, all alphas or high-ranking betas. And at the center of the oval table stood Luca, imposing and regal in his natural authority. When I entered, everyone stood. Respect. Not out of fear, but out of recognition of what I had built in these 6 months. My queen. Luca smiled. That smile reserved just for me that still made my heart race. We were waiting for you. I took my place beside him, and the meeting began. As you all know, I started, my voice steady despite the nerves dancing in my stomach. I convened this meeting to discuss the formation of the Omega Protection Alliance. Over the last 6 months, we have implemented significant changes here in Obsidian. The end of forced confinement, equal rights of expression, access to education and training, and most importantly, the abolition of any discipline involving violence or humiliation. And has it worked? A gray-haired alpha woman asked, skepticism clear in her voice. Hasn't your pack become chaotic without a firm hand? It has become stronger, Luca replied. Productivity has increased. Morale has improved. And we discovered that Omegas, when treated as people and not property, contribute in extraordinary ways. We have 3 Omegas in leadership positions now. One leads our medical wing, another manages our trade routes. The third oversees child education. Murmurs swept through the room, some interested, others disbelieving. What we ask, I continued, is that every pack here sign this treaty, committing to protecting Omegas under your care, providing asylum to those fleeing abuse, and holding leaders accountable who violate these standards. And if we refuse? Another alpha asked. Then there will be no direct consequences, I said honestly. But Obsidian will cut all commercial and diplomatic ties, and we encourage other signatory packs to do the same. Isolation is not punishment, but a natural consequence of incompatible values. The room erupted in discussion, voices overlapping, arguments being made on all sides. I let them, knowing that change never came easily. It was then that the door opened. Helena entered quickly, her face pale. She whispered something to Luca, and I saw his features harden. Excuse me, Luca said, rising. There is a situation that requires immediate attention. My queen, can you continue? I nodded, though worry tightened my chest. Luca never left important meetings without grave reason. I continued the presentation, answering questions, addressing concerns. And slowly, so slowly, I began to see change. thoughtful expressions, nods of agreement. Even the skeptical Alpha was flipping through the treaty with genuine interest. "One final question," a young Beta said. "You mentioned asylum for Omegas fleeing abuse. How do you differentiate between true victims and those simply avoiding responsibility?" "Full investigation," I responded. "Every claim is taken seriously, but we also trust the Omegas themselves. If someone is willing to flee everything they know, face certain death on the road, just to escape, there is usually a reason, as I did, as I had fled, barefoot in the snow, preferring death to one more day of abuse. And if we find the Alpha was within his rights," he pressed, "then we redefine what within his rights means," I said firmly. "Because rights should not include torture. They should not include humiliation. They should not include treating people as disposable property." Silence. And then, slowly, the gray-haired Alpha stood up. "Where do I sign?" One by one, 12 of the 15 packs signed. 12. It wasn't all of them, but it was a start. It was real change. When the meeting ended and the representatives departed, I went looking for Luca. I found him in the training yard, watching something with an intensity I rarely saw. "What happened?" I asked, approaching. He turned, and there was pride mixed with concern in his eyes. "See for yourself." I followed his gaze and nearly collapsed. In the center of the yard, surrounded by warriors who watched her attentively, was one of the Omegas we had rescued from Florian's pack. Her name was Lyra, and she was fighting. Not just fighting. Dominating. She faced an experienced warrior with breathtaking speed and technique. Dodging, countering, spinning. She was small, but she used that to her advantage, being faster, more agile. "She asked for training 3 months ago," Luca explained. "Said she never wanted to feel powerless again. Tobias, my guard captain, agreed to train her personally. And today," he smiled, "today she defeated 3 warriors in practice bouts." Tears burned my eyes, not of sadness, but of pure joy. Because this was what I had dreamed of. Omegas not just surviving, but thriving, finding their own strength, writing their own stories. "There's more," Luca said softly. 13 Omegas from other packs arrived today, fleeing, seeking asylum, asking for the protection you promised. 13. The number hit me. 13 women brave enough to risk everything for freedom. "We will take them?" I asked, though I knew the answer. "All of them," Luca confirmed. "And we will give them what you found here. Safety, choice, a chance to become who they were born to be." I turned to him, this king who had saved me in so many ways. "I have something to tell you." Concern immediately crossed his face. "Are you all right? Are you hurt?" "No," I laughed, taking his hand and placing it on my belly. "I'm pregnant. We are having a baby." The world stopped. Luca froze, his eyes widening, his mouth opening but no sound coming out. And then, in a sudden movement, he lifted me and spun me around, laughing with pure joy that echoed across the courtyard. "A baby!" he finally managed to say, setting me back down but keeping his arms around me as if he feared I would disappear. "We are having a baby. You have given me everything. Love, purpose, and now a family. We gave each other everything," I corrected, touching his face. "I wouldn't be here without you. I wouldn't be who I am without your trust. And I wouldn't be the king I want to be without you, challenging me to be better," he said, pressing his forehead against mine. The training yard had stopped, everyone watching, and when they realized what was happening, when they understood that their queen was expecting an heir, roars of celebration erupted. But I barely heard them, because in that moment, all that mattered was this: Luca, our baby, the future we were building together. That night, after the celebrations had quieted and the palace was finally still, Luca and I returned to our balcony, our place, where everything had changed 6 months ago. "Do you remember?" I asked, looking at the stars. "That first night when you found me in the forest? I was so sure I was going to die. I remember every second," Luca said. "The terror in your eyes, the blood on the snow, and the moment I touched your face and knew you were mine. That I would spend every remaining day ensuring you never felt that fear again. You kept that promise, I whispered, and so many others. You destroyed Florian, protected the Omegas, changed laws, changed the world. We changed the world. He corrected. You brought the vision, the compassion, the courage to imagine something better. I turned in his arms, looking at the man who had become my everything. They used to call me broken. And I called you whole, he said, echoing the words that had become our truth. And now, I smiled, the world calls me queen. But you know what I love being called most? What? He asked softly. Yours. The word came out simple. True. Your mate. Your equal. Yours forever. Forever. He agreed, kissing me under the stars that had witnessed our journey from darkness into light. And as the moon rose over Obsidian, illuminating the kingdom that was now ours to protect and nurture, I finally understood the complete truth. They found me broken and bleeding in the snow. But I wasn't broken. I never was. I was just waiting. Waiting for the king who would see beyond the wounds. Waiting for the love that would remind me of who I always was. Waiting for the right moment to be reborn. And now, with new life growing inside me, and an entire kingdom of Omegas finding their voices, I knew. I wasn't saved that night in the forest. I was liberated. And together, Luca and I were liberating everyone else. Thank you for being here and for joining me for another story. I truly hope you enjoyed it. If you want, leave your comment. I love reading what you feel and think after each episode. Thank you for the love, and see you in the next story.